This is the video for Networks Programming Assignment 1. First, I'm going to start my server using this command, server.py. This gives the port, and then you give in the board, which is your board of ships. So that starts the server. And now if we go to our browser, we can see that we're at the localhost port 5000 and own board. And that'll refresh. And so your own board shows your ships with the letters marking what kind of ship it is, and then the opponent board is blank because you haven't fired anything yet. For this example, I'm just going to fire on my own board so that we don't have to have two players, but you could start two servers to have two players if you wanted to. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fire with my client. So you send in the IP address of the server, which is localhost, and then you send in the port, and then the X and Y coordinates that you want to fire upon. So if we fire this, it'll respond with a HTTP OK, and hit equals 1, which means we made a hit on a ship. We go back to our browser and refresh this. You can see that the C turned into a lowercase c, which is how we represent if a ship was hit. It just lowercase is the letter, and then if we refresh the opponent board, we can see that an X marks hit ship. If we make it miss, we get an HTTP OK, but we get our hit as 0, which means we made a miss. If we refresh our own board, it'll show a 0 where the opponent missed, and then if we refresh the opponent board, it shows a 0 where we missed. Now I'm going to show the different errors that you can get. So if you do out of bounds, you're going to get an HTTP not found response. If you already fired at that spot, so if I already fired at 0, 0, we're going to get an HTTP gone response. If we sync the ship, so here we can do 0, 4 and then 0, 5. And so if you see, you refresh the page, we hit these two D's right here. Opponent board marks with those as X's. And then our response right here is an HTTP OK. It is 1, except for it includes sync now, which responds with the character, which is D. If you want to send a request that is not formatted correctly, you have to use curl because we made it so that if it wasn't the correct number of arguments, then you're just going to get an invalid parameters. And so if we use curl, see, we're going to post at 127.0.0.1, which is localhost, and then the port 5000. And then you're going to send it in as a query with X equals 0, but then you're not going to give it a Y. And so we see what happens when we do that, is we get a response right here, which is bad request.
Now I'm going to show our correctly formatted requests and responses in Wireshark. So I'm going to fire at space 0, 0. It's a hit. So let's look at the request. As you can see, we've got our headers here. We have our request method post, which is correct, our URI, which contains the coordinates we're firing on, our versioning, our content length is 0 because all of our parameters are in the URI. And then we look at the response, and we see the status code 200, response phrase, all of the headers are correct. Your content type is text and plain, and we can see that it was a hit. Now I'm going to do a miss. And you can see that we have another one here. We can see it's a post, and all the headers are correctly formatted. You can see that it was a 200 because it was just a miss. It wasn't anything bad. We have the hit equals 0 down here and all of our correctly formatted headers. Now I'm going to do a gone, but we've already seen the request. So let's look at the response for this. You can see we've got our error message down here, our correct error codes, and our gone message. Now we can do a out of bounds, and it's an HTTP not found response. You can see 404 not found.